Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
It was a dramatic scene that unfolded in real time on social media when a plane caught fire after landing at Denver International Airport yesterday evening. The flames on the American Airlines plane erupted near an engine, sending thick black smoke billowing while passengers evacuated on slides and onto the plane's wing. At this time, the cause of the fire is not known. Look for the latest at CPR.org. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, Colorado could crack down on certain types of semi-automatic firearms.
These firearms are incredibly powerful and in the wrong hands, extremely dangerous.
Then, a woman who helped hundreds of immigrants ends up in court because of it. Plus, if you want to see this, we have the scoop on reservations.
Blue-green jewel of a lake, fingers of waterfalls dropping into it.
And the weirdest weekend in Colorado is upon us. It's Friday, March 14th. Here's the news in Colorado today. It's Colorado-Canada Friendship Day. No, you didn't miss anything. Governor Polis just declared this yesterday to try to blunt the trade war between the U.S. and Canada.
At a time when in Washington, our national government seems to be confusing friends with enemies, we in Colorado proudly stand with our ally, Canada.
Polis spoke alongside the local Canadian Consul General. Canada and Mexico are Colorado's two largest trading partners. Polis's office said it's also working on a Colorado-Mexico Friendship Day. For tonight, he intends to light up the state capitol in red and white and fly the Canadian flag. Also at the Capitol this week, Colorado got one step closer to stricter gun laws. A proposed bill would ban the manufacture of certain semi-automatic firearms and require buyers to get permits for them. These include semi-automatic shotguns, handguns, and rifles that can take detachable ammunition magazines.
As a former scout, I can tell you with certainty these are not defensive weapons, they are offensive weapons.
U.S. Army veteran Harrison Tarter from the Vet Voice Foundation testified in favor of the new gun restrictions.
Their ability to fire multiple rounds in mere seconds as fast as one can move a trigger finger makes them exponentially more lethal than traditional firearms used for home defense or hunting.
Sponsors of the bill say it's meant to help lower the number of deaths in mass shootings.
This doesn't just happen on TV.
Jane Doherty's sister died in the 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut.
Please pass this bill so your family will not have to go through what my family has gone through.
As the bill has gone through the legislature recently, it has been scaled back. Originally, it would have banned the sale of guns that can accept rapid-fire accessories. Now, the bill requires buyers to be vetted by county sheriffs. Gun store owner J.D. Murphy told lawmakers this week he's still opposed.
I stand before you in strong opposition of this dangerous and misguided bill. It's not about safety. This is about control.
The legislation already cleared the Senate and passed its first hurdle in the House this week with a vote along party lines that came after more than 12 hours of testimony. Not all acts of kindness are rewarded. Yong Cha Prince owns the Western Motor Inn in Denver. In the fall of 2023, she offered temporary housing for hundreds of people who had just arrived in the area from the southern border. Prince is in her 70s and an immigrant herself from Korea. She opened the doors of her old motel to men, women, and kids who had nowhere to go, and she provided 3 cooked meals a day for 300 people. Well, now the decision to open her doors may come back to bite her. A developer who's interested in redeveloping the property is suing her for damages caused by sheltering immigrants. Denverite's Kevin Beatty is here. Kevin, wow. Why is Prince being sued?
Yeah, so the lawsuit was brought by Sage Investments. This is a company that turns motels into affordable housing. And the company had been under contract to buy the property since the summer of 2023, before the immigrants arrived.
So that means Prince knew when she let those folks in off the street that she wasn't going to own the property for very long.
That's right. And the dispute revolves around whether Prince violated the terms of the contract with the future owner, and whether allowing so many people to shelter on her property caused $2 million in damages that should be knocked off the $6 million sale price.
$2 million in damages. So what do you know about the state of the motel when Sage agreed to buy it and then the state of it now?
It was already old and in a state of disrepair when Prince decided to sell. And Sage's lawyers in court said this is the company's entire business model. They buy these old properties and turn them into housing. But since then, Sage said that things have deteriorated to a pretty significant degree, which is why they took her to court. They allege that pipes have been ripped from the walls. There was a 3-ton commercial furnace that has gone missing, and a shuttered restaurant space, which once seemed salvageable, they said looked like a bomb had gone off inside. So the judge had some skepticism about whether this adds up to $2 million, but we'll see what he decides once his ruling comes out.
So how is Prince handling this? What is her reaction?
She'd planned to move on from her life in the motel, and she said in court that she plans to move back to Korea. But that's been long delayed by the lawsuit. She's traveled back and forth, and she recently paid a down payment on a home there. If she wins, she might be able to walk away from the deal, put the motel back in the market, and find a new buyer. If she loses, she might be forced to complete the sale to Sage at a discounted price. It wouldn't wreck her plans, but she says it also wouldn't be the full amount the property is worth.
Kevin, you've known Prince for more than a year now. Why was she interested and willing to open up her motel to immigrants?
Well, you got to go back to when that happened. Denver was struggling to keep up with thousands of people showing up from the border when she opened up that motel. This is Christina Ascension, who showed up with the first group of people who were looking for a warm place to sleep on a really cold night.
She was so good. She opened her door. I was so afraid that she was going to say no because I had been sitting at 7-Eleven for 5 hours, calling people, asking people to help.
Prince was ready to completely close the motel and move out when all this was starting, in part because she'd lost both her husband and son, who she was really close to. And at the time, she told me that caring for all these people was filling her heart in a way that she hadn't felt since they died.
And she did help a lot of people, indeed. I understand a ruling is expected in the coming weeks. Kevin, thanks for sharing the story with us.
Thanks for having me.
If you can make it up a steep and rocky 1,000-foot climb, the view at the top is stunning. And your chance to snag a permit to see it is coming up in just a few days. I'm talking about Colorado's Hanging Lake. Like a lot of the best places in Colorado, a reservation is now required to protect it from the crowds. The trail will finally reopen this summer, and reservations for a hiking permit open at 8 a.m. on Monday. CPR's Stina Sieg has made the climb to Hanging Lake. Stina, what's that like?
Well, it is gorgeous. It is also really hard. It's steep, it's rocky. As you're climbing it in the beginning, it kind of feels like this jagged, like stone staircase. There's this creek rushing alongside you. You cross the creek several times, and you get really, really steep at the beginning and then again at the end. And it finally leads you to this blue-green jewel of a lake. And there are these, fingers of waterfalls dropping into it. And it's so clear. And it's just gorgeous.
You've convinced me, Stina. It sounds gorgeous. And that must be why you need a reservation to see it.
In terms of visitation, this is Western Colorado's Grand Canyon. And that led to so many people coming to it that you'd have fistfights in the parking lot over spaces. People were damaging the trail, putting graffiti on the trees. And finally, this all kind of came to a head where the Forest Service decided we needed a reservation system, and they implemented one in 2019 that capped it at 615 people a day, which tells you how many people must have been coming before that.
Yes, because 615 still sounds like a lot of people on a trail. So, Stina, why has the trail faced so many closures in recent years?
It all started in 2020 with the Grizzly Creek fire, which was this massive wildfire that consumed parts of Glenwood Canyon. As it so often is with wildfires, that led to flooding later. And in 2021, debris flows were so massive and destructive that they closed I-70 in the canyon literally for weeks. And it also damaged the trail so much that it had to be closed off and on, basically ever since. And these repairs have been in stages over the years. Most recently, it started up again in 2024. And the Forest Service sent me these photos of giant pieces of lumber for the bridges being helicoptered in so they could be reconstructed.
Sounds amazing. I'm really looking forward to trying to get a reservation this year. What do we need to know about getting a reservation?
So permits are good for 3 hours, which sounds like a lot, but again, it is a tough trail, so you might use all of that or most of that. You can get them at visitglenwood.com/hanging lake. And again, this is a big challenge, but it's also completely worth it.
Stina Sieg, thanks for the motivation.
Oh, you're welcome. And hey, good luck on the climb, Bozzy.
Colorado has some quirky holidays. There's a headless chicken festival in Fruita, coffin races in Manitou Springs, and perhaps the wackiest, most recognizable of the bunch is Frozen Dead Guy Days, which kicks off tonight. For decades, it was a staple in the town of Nederland. The celebration has now moved to Estes Park, and CPR's Molly Cruz reports that Nederland locals say Frozen Dead Guy Days was a gift and a curse. Molly, first of all, what is this weird festival all about?
Yeah, so it started with this man named Grandpa Bredo, who died in the late 80s in Norway. Him and his family were big proponents of cryonics, which is essentially the process of freezing a body after death with the hope of resurrection in the future. Long story short, his grandson shipped him over to the U.S., where he laid to rest in Nederland after all of these years in his grandson's backyard. So after word got out, the Nederland Chamber of Commerce decided to use that to create a festival to boost tourism in the town and create a lot more revenue for local businesses.
You can be anywhere in the world, and some people will know when you say Nederland, Colorado, that Frozen Dead Guy Days takes place here.
That was Stephanie Andelman. She lives in Nederland, and she's been working at this festival basically since it started back in 2002. So essentially, just to paint the scene a little bit, thousands of people would come into the town. There would be a lot of drinking and partying, live music, and it's just a really lively celebration.
During all of that lively celebration, Grandpa Bredo is in his grandson's backyard.
That's right. Yep. He's in a cryonic coffin in the back of a shed. So I spoke with longtime festival workers like Stephanie, as well as waiters at local breweries, and even the person who would haul thousands of pounds of ice from a warehouse in Denver to keep Grandpa Bredo's remains frozen. And it was clear to me that there was a lot of mixed feelings about this festival.
I spent a lot of time, instead of working on the actual logistics of the festival, I would say 60% of my time would be fighting with town.
That was Amanda McDonald. She bought the festival rights from the Nederland Chamber of Commerce back in 2011. She actually told me that she had to sell her house to pay off debt that she racked up from running this festival.
Really stressful for Amanda. So does everyone in Nederland feel like she does about the festival? Are there people who miss it?
Yeah, there are definitely some people that miss it. But what I found the most interesting is that the people who the festival is really for, like the restaurant owners and the restaurant workers, they're now the ones who are really against it. The festival sounded like it was very disorganized from the beginning, so as its popularity grew, it just really got out of control. Busloads of people would show up from Denver and Boulder and surrounding cities and just really overwhelm the local restaurants and just kind of trash the town.
It sounds like most people in Nederland were okay with the festival moving. How has it gone now in Estes Park? Has it been a successful move?
For the most part, yeah. I spoke to a funeral owner who works and lives up in Estes, who now volunteers and works with the festival every year, and she told me that it has a much better structure. Workers are paid and compensated for their time. There's also now a full museum around Grandpa Brado at the Stanley Hotel, and they really have the funds to keep him frozen.
So when he comes back to life, he will not be in the town he once knew.
Yeah, which I was kind of thinking that would upset some folks, but in fact, I think a lot of people felt a lot of relief that he was no longer in Nederland. One of the people that surprised me the most was Brad Wickham, who was the longtime caretaker I mentioned earlier. He was responsible for taking care of Grandpa Brado's frozen body every other week. This is what he told me.
When I went back to the shed and saw it empty, I rejoiced, literally danced. The Stanley rescued the festival, and if it weren't for them, it would be a memory.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Bazzi.
Additional reporting for today's show came from CPR's Stephanie Wolf and Megan Verlee. You can read even more on today's stories at the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening and for following Colorado Today in your podcast app. And if you get the chance, tell a few friends. Have a good weekend. I'm Bazzi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where pharmacists can fill your pet's prescriptions, helping you pamper and protect your pet with pills, peanut butter, toys, and treats. Stop into the store today or visit Safeway.com.